Yeah! What is up, y'all? My name is John Devine, and I am the host of the Healthy, Wealthy People podcast, the show that educates on the three most important pillars of becoming a strong, well-rounded individual: our health, our wealth, and our authentic expression of self. I am incredibly excited to be back for a third mic melting season of bringing y'all the best personal and business development information anywhere on the internet. As always, before we get started, I would like to take a moment to personally thank you, yes, you, for investing your time with me today, and ask that if you do find any value in today's episode, which you will, that you do us both a favor and subscribe. All right, let's get into it, y'all. All right, y'all, welcome back. Man, I cannot believe that it's been 2 years and 3 months since our last episode. Man, so much has changed in my life and my business since our last conversation. So, yeah, this episode I'm calling Trust the Process because, dude, everything in my life is different than it was the last time we talked. I've, tried to build 3 different podcast studios. And now this one that we're sitting in is actually in my house. So it took me getting a new home and building an in-home studio for this thing to get back off the ground again. But man, it feels good not only to be back with you guys, but operating out of my own home. So it's a pretty cool place to be in a few years later. And yeah, the key point that I want to make to you guys about when life changes and when something for me that is the podcast, but for you might be your health, or we're in February, maybe you already fell off of your fitness goals for the year and you're like, oh, another year, and you're starting to get down on yourself. It's been 2 years and 3 months since I was on the mic with you guys, but we're back, right? So you got to keep that goal out in front of you. You got to stay focused, and just understand that there are chapters and times of your life where you're not going to be able to do the things, and you're not going to be able to have the things that you want to have right now. But if you truly want them, don't stop thinking about them. Okay. Like I said, I built 3 podcast studios in the last 2 years, 3 months. It's not like I haven't been trying to make this work, but it's been a process. Okay. So I'm going to just kind of tell you guys the story of what's happened in my life over the last 2+ years, and why my life is better now. But let me tell you, it's been a challenging 2 years, to say the least. Okay. So as you know from episode 31, we uprooted our lives from Kalispell, Montana to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And I only think I did like 2 more episodes after that, where I rented somebody else's studio to bring you guys those shows. So that was the first big move, right? And I was talking to you guys a little bit when we unplugged to make that happen. We've talked on the episode about doing investment strategy, investment properties, stuff like that. Well, we moved so fast, like 2 weeks after we decided to move, we moved, that we turned our home into a fully furnished long-term rental property. And pretty much all of these bullet points that I'm going to go over with you guys are going to turn into another episode later, because as you know from listening to this show, I do everything that comes through this show and I test it, right? So I have a lot of first person lessons from running my first long-term rental, and I'm going to bring all those lessons to you guys. So we're going to get more into that story later. But yeah, pretty much each one of these points, I'm going to come back and we're going to dive a little deeper on, because there's just been a lot of teaching moments over the last 2 years. Next, we started homeschooling our daughters, right, which we were right at the beginning of the decision making process for that when we last spoke. And so there's just been a ton that we've learned, both from a co parenting role to a parenting role to not only doing, the parenting, but also the schooling. There's a lot of technology now that makes it a lot easier. And again, me, Kelly, and the girls will come in and do a homeschool episode for everybody who either is doing it or is thinking maybe they want to do it or has never thought about doing it. We're going to bring you some information on that. Almost 2.5 years later, it is for our family dynamic probably the best move we've made. So I can't say enough good things about homeschool. Uh, this one, I was curious of whether I was actually going to get into this with you guys or not, but it was a massive piece of the catalyst for all the change that's happened. You guys know that I've been in therapy, had been in therapy for over 6 years before I took a macro guided psilocybin trip because there was what we call in therapy stuck points, three major stuck points in my past that we approached with multiple different therapy modalities. And for some reason, I just couldn't get the hooks of those stuck points out of me. I couldn't let go. And so I was like, you know what? Why don't we try this? And so that is going to be a really fun episode. But literally in the middle of that that trip, that guided journey, I sat up and fired my therapist of 6.5 years, um, and so it worked on a profound level, and it was a macro change from a macro dose in how I handle a lot of things in my life now, 2 years later. Uh, Kelly and I got married and had our honeymoon in Jamaica. You know, one of the top two uh, weeks of my life for sure. The other one was in the Virgin Islands with Kelly. But it was incredible. And last you guys had heard, Kelly and I had been living together like married people. By Montana law, we were common law married. Um, and so we have a really big story on all of that. Kelly proposing to me with the girls, uh, us going and getting married in Jamaica, how to have a destination wedding on a baller budget. So lots of stuff to teach there. We've taken all kinds of personal and business trips, been to Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, multiple times to Montana, Oregon, Texas, Vegas, Nashville, Seattle. We took our asses back to Jamaica again. So, I mean, life is good, right? But it has come from a big chapter of uncomfortable change. We bought our dream home in Spokane County. Never thought that I would live in Washington State, but we found this incredible home. And so we bought our second house and, built a in-home studio. And the process of buying this house, if you have heard at all, it was crazy. So I'm definitely going to be doing a podcast episode really centered around negotiation because it was my negotiation that landed this house. There was a lot of stuff on both sides that the realtors just weren't thinking of. And so I did a lot of the creative ideas and pitches that landed them selling their house and us buying our dream home. But it's probably one of my most proud moments as a entrepreneur business person. Those of you who know our product, our supplemental insurance, the prices are set. They're based on age and marital status. And so I don't get to do one of my favorite business activities, which is negotiation. It is so fun for me. And I'm not a negotiator that wants to be in this win lose situation where I beat that guy. I only do win wins, but I think of things so differently to help both people win. And this was the biggest win I've had. So I'm excited to tell you guys that story. And again, it's the thing that is allowing us to bring you the podcast, because again, we have an in-home studio now. Uh, I rebuilt and rewrote all of our company systems, scripts, everything. Once we moved over here, we had a fall off of some of our agents, um, which I guess is kind of be to be expected. We moved away from our headquarters. We moved away from our home, our office, all of that stuff, completely uprooted everything and replanted. And so obviously there's going to be some death that comes with that. And so we did lose some people, some of my favorite people, unfortunately. And the team did go through a shrinking phase, which was also a really hard pill for me to swallow. I grow our companies by double to triple digits every single year. And our business shrank by 50% in premium the year that we ripped everything up and moved over here. It was the first year in like 4 or 5 years that I was not in the top 10% of our company. And I'm a high performer. That was tough for me. And so talking about, having to go backwards sometimes so that you can uh, propel yourself forwards, the analogy of the bow and arrow, where you have to be pulled back to be launched forward sometimes. And that's not an easy thing for somebody like me to jump on and do and handle, and admit that, like, yeah, I'm shrinking. I'm moving backwards right now. And so a lot of the mind games that go into that, is it me? Am I unable to um, produce and perform because of something like a move? No, it's just one of the biggest stressors on your life, your business, your family, your relationships. Um, and so going through that whole journey. However, as always, bounce back, come back even stronger. So with the new area, the bigger location, we took on a couple of agents over in Oregon, which is why we were going to Oregon so much, and brought their businesses back online. And so last year we ended up growing by 50%, right? We broke our first $1 million year, um, which landed us back in the top 10% again. And I didn't just win as a top team. We were number 29 for producing agencies in the country. But I was also the number 12 recruiter. And so the one piece of the business that I had not fully gotten my hands around yet was recruiting systems, ad writing, interview and onboarding processes. And so I had to really learn that. And I did, and came back and performed. So, um, yeah, just talking about the process of going through all of that, because if you're a business owner, you have to realize your business is a reflection of where you are in your current state of your life, right? So if it's not where you want it to be, your business, there's a really good chance you need to look at your personal life, your personal relationships, your personal development, your personal attachment styles, and go, there's some things I need to change or let go of or learn. But a lot of us think that we can just build a business that's going to grow and thrive and explode, regardless of where we are in our personal lives. And so, yeah, I'm gonna tell you guys all about that story of what the business went through, both shrinking and growing. But we've grown aggressively in the past 2 years. We now have 16 agents across 4 states, and we're nearly $5 million in revenue right now. So yeah, a big part of the delay on the podcast too has been getting the company that pays for the podcast back up to a state of thriving, so that we can properly talk to you guys, market, bring you information, content, partner with local businesses. But we had to get our business affairs back in order. And then, yeah, I was telling you guys I've built 3 different podcast studios. And if you follow me personally, you know that when we first moved, I found this little office that we were subleasing. But it was like a poorly built attachment onto somebody else's business. And we bought all kinds of extra soundproofing. This is all like kind of mix match. It works now in here. But we bought all that extra soundproofing for that little space we were subleasing, and we could not get the echo to go away. I don't know what it was made out of, but I could not get it to where I wasn't hearing myself 2 or 3 times in the mic. I even bought this thing called a chaotic eyeball, which is this big thing that blocks out all the sound. But we were going to be bringing you guys video this year. And so then I had this big ball in my face and you couldn't see me anyways. So that was the first studio. It didn't work. It was fully set up. I couldn't get good sound quality out of it. And so we didn't do anything with it. I did rent a studio space for 2 sessions. But like I told you, our business shrank 50% that year. And I don't know if you ever tried to rent studio time, but it's spendy. So after doing it twice, I was like, I have my own studio gear. I don't need to be paying somebody for studio time. So yeah, we did those 2 episodes, and then I just waited until I could get a good studio built. So then we partnered with this company, Mode, which I know a lot of you saw. We were a part of for just under a year, and we were helping them build, grow, and they needed, number one, somebody who could build a studio, which at this point I had done twice. And then they needed somebody who could basically podcast host. And so I built a state-of-the-art podcast studio, like unbelievable dual side control room studio, audio, video, lights, hold 9, and never used it once. There ended up being some conflicting interests. And so we left when we bought this house, because I was like, I can build my own studio. And so right before we were going to get the podcast off the ground, we ended up buying this house and having to rebuild the studio. And so I've just learned a lot about, studio build and sound quality and video and all that stuff. And so we'll be bringing you guys episodes on how to build a podcast and buy equipment. And do you want to be audio, video? And so again, be able to teach from the experience of now building 4 studios total, and the experience that comes along with that. So we're going to take a quick break to hear from today's sponsor, myself, and for the first time, this show. Okay. Now, I know y'all hate when I interrupt the flow of the show, but business is business. So the way we're going to run today's sponsorship slot is to kick off season 3 to let y'all beautiful bitches know that healthy, wealthy people will be opening up sponsorship to companies outside of what has been our sole sponsor for the past 2 seasons, my insurance agency, Divinity Group. So yes, the show is now accepting sponsors. So if you or your business are interested in sponsoring, shoot us a DM on Instagram at healthy.wealthy.people, or send us an email at hello.healthywealthypeople@gmail.com. All right. Let's get back into it, y'all. So what was the cause of this sudden and dramatic change in my life, right? Uprooting everything and moving 2 weeks later. Yeah, that was my wife. As you guys know, Kelly and I travel a lot. It's one of our favorite things. It's why we do what we do for work. And we have this kind of running joke. I'm sure if you and your partner travel, you have the same joke, which is every time you show up somewhere and you love it, you look at each other and go, why don't we live here? We should buy a house here. I love it here, right? And so we do that almost everywhere we go. Uh, and so we came over to Coeur d'Alene to celebrate one of my agents hitting their quick start bonus, which is the first basically month of their career. And we take them out to a really nice dinner. And so we were taking our agent out in Hayden to this dinner, and we brought the girls, and we just decided on homeschooling. And Idaho has great homeschooling laws and regulations. And so we're sitting at this little local spot called the Collective Kitchen. And at the time, Kelly was still pescatarian. And so, if you know, Northwest Montana, Flathead Valley, trying to eat fish and vegetables only in a steak and potatoes area is tough, right? Especially for somebody who likes to eat out so much. So we're at Collective, and she gets this little blackened salmon sandwich on point. The whole lunch was on point. Girls are having a good time. It's beautiful if you've ever been to Lake Coeur d'Alene. We're right downtown, sun shining, lakes glistening. And she goes, "Why don't we live here?" And I'm like, "Are you out of your mind? Because we have a local business. We have a local office on First and Main. We have a whole company. We have clients, agents. We just bought our house a year ago." She goes, "Yeah, but why don't we live here?" Now, I didn't want to move, which again was a big part of all of this. And a big part of why I'm going to say trust the process is I could tell she wanted to be here from her intuition more than I didn't want to leave home. And so it wasn't even about trusting my intuition and my process. It was trusting my partner and her intuition. And she doesn't really say, "Hey, I want to do this," or "We should do this," from very many things. And she was really serious about it. But it was September already, and I'm not trying to move through snowy mountain passes. And you have to get through two passes to get from where we lived in Kalispell to Coeur d'Alene. So I said, "Tell you what, we're going to be running a training here in, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, anyways. Um, and so if you can figure out everything for us to get moved and be over here before that training, we'll move. If not, you're going to have to curb this idea until spring because I'm not doing this in the wintertime." So she was like, "Okay, we can do that." Now, I obviously didn't think she was going to find us a property management company, get us renters, get us out of our lease at our office, all of those different things that needed to get done in 2.5 to 3 weeks. And so I immediately was like, "Yeah, that's not going to happen." And she comes back to me 2.5, 3 weeks later, and she's like, "This is done, this is done, this is done, this is done. We need to get a U-Haul." And I was like, "Oh my God, you're kidding me." But when she said, "I want to live here," I kind of needed to sit with that. And so we were hanging out downtown Coeur d'Alene, and there's this little gift shop down there called the Bear Cave. And literally up here in my studio above the door is a banner that, number one, matches the branding, but it says "Trust the process." And I did not want to do this, but I could tell how bad she wanted to do it. And again, I didn't even think she was going to be able to pull it off in 2.5 to 3 weeks, but something said buy that banner. And so I did. And when she came to me 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, and was like, "We're going," it was kind of that banner and me going like, "You knew when she said she was going to do this, that we were going to do this. And you just need to trust this process right now." And so that's kind of the catalyst that started all this. Um, but as always, you guys know that I bring you something teachable. Okay. So I didn't just want to tell a story about my life over the last 2 years and 3 months. I want to give you guys some bullet points, some teaching parts around trusting the process. Okay. So I've got 5 bullet points for you. Number one, intuition. Okay. Most people drown out their intuition because there's too much noise around us all the time. Okay. Our phones, music, videos, friends, family, work. Most people, I'm learning, have never really lived alone. Living alone was my favorite thing, but not enough people get the silence they need to listen to their intuition. Okay. And there's a big difference between intuition and feeling. Okay. feeling is in emotion versus feeling is in intuition, which is going to be a podcast episode, is a big, big difference. Okay. Short and sweet, intuition is a feeling that you should do something, right? Like, I should spend more time with my kids. I should eat healthier. I should spend more time outside, exercise more. That's your intuition trying to move you in the direction of a healthier life, a more connected life. A feeling like, I feel like Patricia should have invited me to her birthday. That's an emotion, right? Jealousy, whatever. So most people aren't even in tune enough to delineate between intuition and emotion, but they are very different. So Kelly had intuition telling her, we should move here. I want to move here. I'm being pulled to live here. And again, her intuition around moving was stronger than my intuition around not moving. So it was her intuition that we were listening to. Number two is a game plan. If you have an intuitive pull to do something, to go somewhere, to accomplish something, and you just wing it, like, it might work. But if you make a game plan, it's, I almost guarantee you, anything you want, you can accomplish if you get a game plan. Okay. You've got to know what you have to do, what steps you have to take, in what order, how much money you need to make these things happen. So I gave Kelly a game plan. You have 2 weeks to get this, and done. Or we can still get all that done, but we're going to get it done by like spring, and then we'll move in the spring, summer. Right. So we had a to-do list that had to be done and 2 different timelines for that to-do list. Then once the to-do list was accomplished, it's a new to-do list, right? U-Hauls, cost, when we're moving, where we're moving, all of that stuff. But again, we made a plan. Okay. We're going to live at this place. Our general timeline for living there is this long, which means when we get there, we need to be looking for a house, which means we need to get a new pre-approval for what we can afford out there. Like, a whole list of plans comes up when there's a new intuitive pull for something you want or do or achieve or accomplish or give, right? You got to figure out how, okay, which is your game plan. Number 3 is trust. Okay. Again, trust the process. If you're spending the whole time doubting that it's going to work, going, I don't know if this is going to actually work. I know I have a plan, but what if it doesn't? What if something bad happens? What if you are going to stay where you are? You're going to lack growth. You're going to not accomplish the things you want to accomplish because you're not going to, again, trust the process and lean in to what needs to be done to do this thing. Again, if you do the game plan, the to-do list, like, why would it not work? You're doing the things it takes to make it work. It's like baking. I say this when I'm training salespeople all the time. I know our sales system works this percent of the time. So if you talk to this many people, I guarantee you're going to close this many people. It's like baking. If I tell you use this much flour, this much baking powder, this much of this ingredient, this much oil, this many eggs, bake at this temperature for this long, and you do all of those things, a cake is going to come out of the oven. So you don't have to worry and distrust that things are going to work, although it is our human nature. You just need to lean in and trust. You need to trust yourself that even if something goes awry, you can handle it. You need to trust the game plan that you made because, again, you trust yourself and you made the steps. Okay, good. You got on the internet. You asked for some help. Maybe you had chat draw you a game plan. Great. That's even better. Chat's going to think of things you're probably not. So trust the game plan and then just trust life in general, that most of the time things work out. Yeah, bad stuff happens, but you're here. You haven't died. Nothing outrageously horrible has kept you from moving forward in your life. Again, yes, bad things have happened, but you're still here, right? So, like, life just tends to work out if you trust yourself, you make a game plan for something you want, and you work towards it. Okay. Number 4, follow through. Like I already talked about, we're in February. A lot of people have already fallen off of their fitness and exercise plans. It's okay. It's a new day. Get back on the horse. I don't care if it takes you a day, a week, a month, a quarter, a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. You have to follow through. That's the difference between people who make it and people who don't, is eventually people who don't just stop. They go, it's hard. I keep messing up. Yeah, well, keep going, right? 2 years, 3 months off of the show. We're back. We follow through, building 3 podcast studios to get here. We follow through, right? And the fifth thing is support, okay? You need a support system that you can lean on when you are working on these things, because you're going to doubt yourself. Something's going to go wrong and you're going to start losing it, spinning, right? Kelly, when she came to me and said, I want to live here, I supported her in that decision. However, when we got here, and again, I'm not the one who wanted to live here, right? And so I did go through a little bitch chapter where I was complaining and I was like, I miss our friends and I miss our group and I miss our, business and I miss our clients and I miss, being able to say, oh yeah, I work with these people and everyone knew. I missed being on TV, out with my local car dealership and doing their commercials. And like, I missed our house that we just moved into like a year ago. And so Kelly then had to support me in me going through the hard chapter of letting go, right? And then there's obviously stuff that came up along the way, right? Making a podcast studio and it not working, making another one, it not working, and me going like, am I really supposed to be doing this podcast thing? Because like, I just keep putting in and then the show doesn't happen. Putting in and Kelly being like, just keep going, right? So can you do it without a support system? Yes, I've done it and it is hard and it sucks, right? Can you do it way better with a support system? Yes. So figure out who that is. Is it your friends? Is it your family members? Is it other people that have already accomplished what you want to accomplish? And so you need to spend more time around those people. Whatever that group of supportive individuals is, you need them. And as soon as you start feeling yourself spinning, you need to reach out to them. Otherwise, it's useless. Okay. So, quick recap. Number one, intuition, and knowing the difference between intuition and emotion, and giving yourself the space and the time to listen to that intuition. Okay. Number two, make a game plan. Make sure it's detailed. Make sure you dig in. What do I need to do? Have whoever's in on it with you give some of their ideas for a game plan. Go to ChatGPT, Google, whatever. Make a detailed game plan. Number three, trust. Trust yourself. Trust the game plan that you made, and trust life. Everything works out in the end. Number four, follow through. No matter how many times you have to get back up, 5 times, 50 times, 500 times, if you really want it, follow through. And number five, make sure that you have a cultivated support system for when you start to spin and lose your grip on your goals, okay? Have those people that bring you back to center, get you focused so that you can follow through. All right, y'all, I'm going to leave you with a quote from Mr. Martin Luther King Jr. Faith is taking the first step, even when you can't see the whole staircase. So remember, trust the process, and thanks for jumping on today. All right, boys and girls, we have reached the inevitable end of today's episode. But before we go our separate ways, I just want to take a quick minute to say fucking thank you. Thank you for investing your listening time with me when there are literally millions of other artists whose content you could be consuming. Your support and feedback mean more to me than you will ever realize, which is why I'm going to ask you for 3 small favors before we wrap this thing up. Please, if you have found any value in the show at all, these are the 3 things you can do to help us grow. 1, follow and or subscribe so you never miss another episode. 2, drop a like on the show and help us hack that algorithm. 3, share the show with your followers and tag us at healthy.wealthy.people and John Devine Inc. so that they have the same access to this type of life-changing information that you do. Now get out there and enjoy the pursuit of the healthiest, wealthiest, most authentic version of yourself, and I'll see you right back here in 2 weeks for another episode of the Healthy, Wealthy People podcast. Peace!